We live in a world full of contradictions and complexities, where human relationships are woven into a network of intentions and feelings that often seem to contradict each other. Amid this intricate web, the paradox of altruism emerges. Do we help others, or are we, in fact, merely seeking to benefit ourselves? When we examine human behavior, we frequently encounter attitudes that, at first glance, appear selfless and generous, but may conceal more selfish motivations. This duality has been a subject of study and reflection since the dawn of philosophy, explored by both classical and modern thinkers who attempt to understand to what extent the act of helping is a reflection of our compassion or a strategy for self-preservation. In the midst of ethical, biological, and sociological debates, the question becomes even more complex. Does true altruism exist, or are we all, in some way, driven by a desire to satisfy our own needs, even when we try to benefit others? Hi, this is Mr.Lenares, and today we're going to talk about the paradox of altruism. Do we help others, or do we help ourselves? When we extend a hand to someone in need, is our gesture purely selfless, or is there a hidden personal gratification that drives us to act? I invite you to reflect with me on this question, which touches on deep aspects of human nature, ethics, and the way we relate to the world around us. To begin our analysis, it is important to define what we mean by altruism. Traditionally, altruism is seen as the willingness to act for the benefit of others without expecting anything in return. This idea has been exalted by various philosophers and spiritual leaders throughout history, who advocated doing good as a path to personal fulfillment and the construction of a fairer society. However, a more recent and often challenging perspective suggests that even when we act in an apparently altruistic manner, we are, in some way, responding to an internal impulse that benefits us. This view, known as reciprocal altruism or selfish altruism, suggests that our acts of kindness may, in fact, be motivated by unconscious desires for self-affirmation, belonging to a social group, or even obtaining psychological rewards such as feelings of satisfaction and well-being. One of the first philosophers to explore this duality was Thomas Hobbes, who saw human nature as fundamentally selfish and competitive. For Hobbes, even acts of apparent generosity were ultimately strategies to ensure one's own survival and security. This somewhat cynical view is supported by evolutionary studies, suggesting that cooperative behaviors may have emerged as survival mechanisms in primitive societies. In this context, helping others would not be an act of selflessness, but rather a way to establish relationships that guarantee reciprocity, and, consequently, the protection of both the group and the individual. On the other hand, thinkers like Immanuel Kant argued that true altruism lies in the ability to act out of duty, without seeking personal rewards. For Kant, authentic morality requires us to do good simply because it is the right thing to do, regardless of the consequences for ourselves. This idealistic perspective proposes that human reason can lead us to truly selfless behavior, where the dignity of others is recognized as an end in itself. However, even this conception has been challenged by arguments pointing to the difficulty of completely separating self-interest from the act of helping, since the mere fact of acting out of duty can indirectly reinforce a positive self-image. Psychology also delves into this issue, bringing studies that show that performing acts of kindness triggers the release of substances in our brain, such as dopamine and oxytocin, which promote a sense of pleasure. This biochemical reward suggests that helping others can, in some way, be a reward in itself, encouraging individuals to repeat altruistic behaviors. However, this does not necessarily disqualify the action, but rather reveals that, from a biological standpoint, our reward systems are intrinsically linked to social cooperation. Thus, even if there is an internal gain resulting from an altruistic act, this can be seen as part of the natural balance that sustains human relationships, contributing to social cohesion and collective well-being. Alongside these analyses, sociology offers a broader view of the phenomenon, emphasizing that reciprocity is a cornerstone of social interactions. The concept of social exchange, developed by sociologists like George Homans and Peter Blau, highlights that individuals, in their interactions, seek a balance between what they give and what they receive. Thus, altruistic acts, though they may seem one-sided, are part of a dynamic in which cooperation and trust are strengthened. This virtuous cycle benefits not only those who receive help, but also those who offer it, as it creates a more harmonious and interdependent social environment. In this way, the line between helping others and helping oneself becomes blurred, suggesting that ultimately, both aspects can coexist without negating each other. Beyond philosophical and scientific arguments, reflections on altruism are also infused with existential and spiritual dimensions. Many religious traditions preach the importance of selflessness and love for others as a path to transcendence and personal fulfillment. In Christianity, for example, the teaching to love one's neighbor as oneself can be interpreted both as a call to altruistic service and as an acknowledgement that our own salvation and well-being are intertwined with how we treat others. This holistic view suggests that true altruism is not a dichotomy between individual and collective good, but a synthesis in which individual spiritual and emotional development reflects on society as a whole. However, it is also important to consider criticisms that point to the risk of romanticizing altruism to the point of disregarding the complex motivations behind human actions. In some cases, the practice of altruism can be used as a form of manipulation or moral imposition. For instance, in political contexts, the rhetoric of the greater good can be employed to justify actions that, in reality, serve the interests of a select group or maintain social control. In this sense, it is crucial to distinguish between genuine altruism, which stems from compassion and empathy, and a stance that uses altruistic discourse to mask selfish interests or exert power. Given this perspective, the central question remains: do we help others or ourselves? The answer, which eludes a simplistic dichotomy, is that altruism is simultaneously an act of benevolence and a mechanism for self-affirmation. There is no denying that our evolutionary and biological instincts favor behaviors that promote cooperation, precisely because they ensure the survival of both the individual and the group. At the same time, the personal satisfaction and elevation of spirit we experience when helping others cannot be dismissed as merely selfish consequences. Instead, they form part of an interactive cycle in which each person's well-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of all. This interdependence leads us to rethink what it means to act ethically and with solidarity in an increasingly complex world. Perhaps the key lies in recognizing that altruism does not need to be measured in absolute terms, neither pure nor impure, but as part of a network of relationships where mutual benefit is both natural and desirable. By embracing this perspective, we free ourselves from the pressure of pursuing unattainable moral purity, and instead learn to value the complexity of our actions and intentions. We live in an era where interactions are mediated by both personal connections and digital networks, where the impact of our actions can extend far beyond the immediate. In this context, cultivating a conscious altruism, one that acknowledges both the importance of helping others and the internal benefits it provides, is essential for building a more just and balanced society. When we understand that our acts of kindness contribute to strengthening human relationships, we realize that, in a way, we are helping ourselves by creating an environment of trust, respect, and cooperation. In summary, the paradox of altruism, do we help others or ourselves, does not offer a definitive answer but rather an opportunity to reflect on the intricate nature of our motivations. By acknowledging that our gestures of generosity can be both a reflection of our compassion and a way to nurture our own sense of well-being, we open the door to a deeper and more integrated understanding of what it means to live ethically and in solidarity. This awareness can lead us to act more authentically, without needing to disguise our personal interests behind a facade of selflessness, but instead recognizing that, by helping others, we are, in fact, strengthening the very fabric that unites us as human beings. If this reflection sparked new thoughts and questions for you, I invite you to leave a comment and share your perspective on the subject. After all, the discussion on the paradox of altruism is an ongoing journey, inviting us to explore the many facets of human behavior and recognize that, in the end, the good we do for others resonates within ourselves. See you next time.